Hey, hope everybody's doing having a great Tuesday. And Cody's going to join us here. Make sure I get him in here. Hold on a second. Cody, man, I'm still learning how to do this stuff, so hope you will forgive me. Let's see here. Guests, invite guest. Okay, still learning how to do this. I've got a guest here. Cody, let's see. Add to stage. Are you there, Cody?
I am here, brother. How are you?
Got you there, bud. Can you hear me?
I can. It's
Cody Stovall,
slightly.
can you hear me? I'm not
I can hear
getting
you a little bit.
let's see here. Man, I'm learning as I go, but don't know why I can't hear Cody. So let's try this again here.
It
Cody,
says
I'll remove you and then I'll add you back. Let's see. How's that work?
I can hear you. Can you hear
Nope,
me?
I can't hear him. Gosh darn it. You know what? This might be my fault too. I'm sure it is. Hold on a second.
No problem,
Hold on
brother.
a second here. Best laid plans of mice and men, right? Here we go. Volume. How about that, Cody?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I
That
can
seems to be the
now.
issue.
I can now.
All right.
Hey, we got it. Hey, you gotta like that. Cody Stovall joins us, of course, and you can get him every day, right, Cody? I mean, you're on every day now, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep. And tell folks where they can get you, the easiest way to find you, and let them know your Twitter's.
The easiest place to find me is on Twitter at Aldeo State. But of course, you can check out the daily show Locked On Oklahoma State, and that's on YouTube and every single podcast platform available.
There you go. All right, let's get after it here. We got to solve all of Oklahoma State's problems. You and I are both Oklahoma State folks, even though we talk national. Let's talk about it though. Mike Gundy, and I've been behind Mike, probably more so than the younger folks because younger folks don't remember the 010 and 1 season in 1990. Cody, were you even alive then?
I
Barely.
was what you would call a young whippersnapper, but I was around.
Barely though, right?
Barely. Yes. Yes. I
Barely.
was
Okay.
3.
So that's the whole thing. And I'm going to put this. I'm actually on the cell phone here,
Okay, there you go.
and here's the reason why. My computer, and this happened to me a couple times ago too. My computer's starting to reconfigure. Well, when they add new software, they tell you to click it. I didn't even get asked to click it. I didn't get asked.
Just did it.
You think they'd at least ask me, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't. Okay. Mike Gundy has either lost his mind or he's trying to get fired, maybe both. And oh, by the way, somebody asked me the other day on Twitter, what's the buyout for Mike Gundy? Do you know that his buyout actually goes up as time goes by? I did not
Uh,
know
it,
that
it,
yesterday.
yeah, it is on a escalation scale. Unfortunately.
Yeah. So if you bought him out this year, it'd be like 22 million. If you bought him out like in a couple years, it's like 24 million. So, and I'm not one of those people who definitely got to fire Mike Gundy. No, but
Right.
he needs to fire some coordinators and some assistants. I think you'd agree on that for sure. Too, on the offensive side, the coordinator and of course the offensive line coach, which somebody pointed out the other day. Dickey was such a great offensive line coach at Kansas State, and then he comes here and he sucks. Okay, what's the reason? That, I'm going to ask you because you're the OSU expert on here.
Well, I really think the reason is this is not what he's accustomed to, right? What did he
Right.
do in Manhattan? He had the benefit of running the ball, what, 70% of the time, probably.
True.
In
True.
15 years, they dropped back to throw the ball only a handful of times, especially when Colin Klein was there at quarterback. It was a pretty simple process. He could go get all of the corn fed boys from Iowa, Minnesota, Wyoming, and just teach them that all you have to do in this offense is grab a hold of somebody and drive them into the ground with as much authority as possible. That's all you have to do. And if you can do that, you're probably going to be successful. At Oklahoma State, we are trying to reinvent the wheel with Charlie Dickey and say, hey, buddy, why don't you teach pass protection most of the time? And then we bang our head against the wall and we do it throughout the entirety of the spring, basically, was to get ready. To the fall was to also get ready for what? It was supposed to be a little bit more of a balanced, power oriented attack, which is what maybe could have saved Charlie Dickey's job. Mike Gundy's not doing Dickey any favors right now, giving arguably the best player on the team the ball 3 times.
Yeah. Well, and did you hear Mike's deal about that? It's like, okay, that somebody asked him in the press conference yesterday why he didn't get more carries. Well, because we were down 3 scores. Okay, what about the first and second freaking quarter? I mean, that reminds me of a question I asked somebody in definitely before you were born, back in the '80s. We had just our year after Barry Sanders. We'd had Thurman Thomas. And on Monday Night Football, they'd start throwing to the backs more, and I'm watching that. So I go to Posse Club and ask one of our offensive coaches, why did what's the deal? Why do we never throw out of backs? Well, because in the NFL you got these great backs. I go, you just had them the last 4 years, So it reminds me of that when Mike answers it that way. And I've been behind Mike for a long time. I saw him play his very first game at Oklahoma State at halftime. They just threw him in there. He didn't have pads inside of his helmet. They had to go fix it because they weren't planning on playing him, right? And I just don't get what is going on. Maybe he wants to get fired to get that 22 million or whatever, and just head on out to the farm and have a good time.
Man, I don't think that that is completely implausible here because, yeah, you talk about not only yesterday's interview, but the interview prior to that, right? Every time that he gets in front of a camera, all he does is talk about how we're fine, we're good, we're great. Like we're tackling better than what? You know what I mean? Our offense is just so dreadfully predictable, right? I'm sure you saw what the South Alabama linebacker had to say. It already hurts the heart a little bit that he was an Okie out of Sulphur, right? The one of the ones that got away.
Yeah,
You can't
they
get them
can't get him
all.
right.
You can't get them all. Okay, that's fine. But to have him sit there and talk about how we're the easiest thing to see, to spot. They knew exactly what we were going to run. They knew where we were going to run it, when we were going to run it, how we were going to run it. And then he said, by the time the game starts, it's like slow motion to them. And
Yeah,
we have no adjustments. And just like I
I
talked
just
at my show earlier, Gundy said 5 of the last 7 games, right after K State, KU, Bedlam, bowl game, and now again, that we keep getting out coached. Yet nothing changes. Same coaches, same scheme, same staff, same everything that we've been seeing forever. But you keep telling us, even though that things are on fire, that we should probably just chill out as fans.
yeah, I don't. He's not seeing the same game we're all seeing, and of course he's down there on the field. We're watching it on TV, or you're in the press box, or wherever you're at, and we're seeing that, and we get replays and things like that that he's not privy to as much. So I think we're actually seeing it more on TV than what he's seeing on the field because I I hate to say this, it doesn't even look to me like the effort's there in a lot of cases. I mean,
100%, man.
effort's the one thing you should always be able to give, whether you're talented or not. I don't think the talent's there. We lost what 13 guys that started last year, and we didn't replace them with a whole lot. So, yeah, I'm a little concerned. And then he gets asked, yeah, about who's our young guy, Flores. He gets asked about him. Well, he's not ready yet. And you think the 3 freaking guys you've been throwing in there every game are ready? And they should be ready, but they're not ready. Not a one of them.
Well, I don't know, man. See, I disagree a little bit on a couple of those. One of those
Okay.
being, right, when you talk about the transfer class, right, the day of signing day on 3 Sports had us the number one transfer class. 247 had us like number 5. And whether you looked at Scout 247 on 3 Rivals, it didn't matter. Everybody had our transfer class like top 7, right? So at least we had that. The high school class, that was like number 67. That's a different story.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter if you get the right guys, if the system is right, not right, the fit's not right. And here's the biggest thing to me, man. And this is why this is so glaringly obvious. Unfortunately, we've got the dudes, we have the guys to get stuff done, but there's no faith. There's no faith that the coaches are going to put them in a position to do well. And that is the only job of a coach. This is what I think gets lost in the shuffle of life when it comes to viewing these collegiate athletes and these coaches. A coach's only job is to put a player in position to be successful. That's it. It's not rocket science. You don't have to do anything extra just to strategically, schematically, simply put somebody in the right place to be successful. Now, if they don't do it, that's on them. But add this attitude thing that you talked about, not necessarily attitude, but lackadaisical, right? Kind of like we don't care, we don't try. They can tell by the play calls that the coaches aren't really trying that much. And then it becomes difficult because attitude is a reflection of what? Leadership.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just, I'm, listen, I've been here since 78 now. So this is my 44th year, 45th year, 46th year, something like that, watching the Cowboys. And I expected it. When we had 3-8 seasons back in the day, you expected those and you knew why and all that. But one of the things that I just don't get, and I put it out there on Twitter earlier, we'll talk about it here in a little bit on the NIL. You know who's dominating the NIL? Everybody but the SEC. The SEC might be going down a little bit. They've only got Texas A&M in the top 10 with a top 10 player in NIL. Colorado's got 2 of them. Folks, a blind idiot could figure this out. We have got to get in the NIL. And Mike goes out and basically poo poos it like he always has. He's just old school and he doesn't want to jump in and do the NIL. I don't even think he really wants to do the portal. It took him about a year to figure out, hey, you can not only lose guys, but you can get guys too out of the portal. It's a double edged sword. So, uh, and I'm not saying fire Mike. Oh my gosh, no! 17 years in a row going to bowl, we'd look like bigger idiots than we are if we asked for that, right? So, the whole world would be honest. Mike's a good coach, but he's got to have at least close to talent as people he's playing, and he's got to have at least the coach's abilities, assistant abilities that everybody else has, and I don't think he has either right now.
I don't know, man. I just
I don't know. It's been tough. It's been tough to watch. Even and somebody said, "Oh, you're just knee jerk reaction to losing to a G5 team." No, it's the first 2 weeks were bad enough. This is just showing us what a lot of us saw coming. I mean, Cody, you're on it every day. You follow one team, so you're the expert. You know what has got to be done to fix this problem.
well, man, I won't lie to you. I bought everything this offseason, hook, line, and sinker. Right? It was one of the top 3 most productive years from a Rob Glass factory standpoint, as far as muscle bulking and production, dexterity, all that fun stuff. And he's been here for 20 years, so stuff like that you think should matter. But I think another thing, other than the attitude being a reflection of leadership, is man, we're just too soft. Like point blank, plain and simple, that's just what it is. All 3 teams that we've played thus far this year have beat us up, man. They have made us look like we were pedestrian when it came to the physicality department. So again, we looked great earlier before the season started, but we're not doing any of that. And it's all physicality to me, man. We're not willing to go out there and punch people in the mouth repeatedly anymore.
Wes chimed in that he can barely hear me, so I hope that's changed, Wes. But anyway, let me know. Let me know because I'm still new to this. I mean, we're just now starting our second week, so good
All
stuff.
good, buddy.
Hey, let's talk a little bit more about the national scene and compare it, maybe how it affects Oklahoma State, the Big 12, because uh, right now the SEC it doesn't look anywhere near as dominant, maybe less one team, and even Georgia had some trouble on Saturday. So I don't think the SEC is as strong as they've been. The Pac-12 looks really strong. That's the good news for them. The bad news is they're done. So after
Right.
this year, that's going to be a fun conference to watch. Though they'll probably get by far their best TV numbers ever, and it is what it is. Glad to have four of them. I'm one of those guys who would like to have two more, and there is some talk about Oregon State and Washington State perhaps getting an invite as but something's going to have to be done with the TV people, and I understand Fox and ESPN are at least talking about it now. So it'd be interesting to see. I would like to have those two though, and then let's head east for the rest of it, right?
I mean, I would agree with you. But you know what, man? There's still, I don't know, man. Enough hope in the players, I think.
Yeah.
We've still got enough guys to turn this thing around. And like you'd mentioned, it appears as though Gundy seems slightly checked out, maybe bored, maybe he just lost a couple miles an hour off his fastball. But you've been around Oklahoma State long enough to know that something's not right, right? That
Yeah.
it's pretty evident that there's something deeper than just the scab that meets the surface.
Well,
So
it's not like
as
we
long
haven't
as
got.
we can,
It's
I'm sorry.
Cody. It's not like we haven't got beat by a G5 team at home in recent years. We got beat by Central Michigan. That was not a fluky deal. It shouldn't have been that close. We just got manhandled, beaten every way on Saturday night, and that's what's concerning is that they were the better team. It was no fluke.
Well, and as reference to the SEC, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, the landscape, yeah, it's kind of a wild ride right now. Thank goodness that Brett Yormark was able to put the Big 12 in the position that he was able to do, and he did. Because if we're in a negotiation right now, it's not looking so hot, man. But
Right.
the SEC, like you said, they look a little bit more susceptible than usual. The Big Ten doesn't look any more crazy than it typically does. And then, yeah, ironically enough, the funnest thing to watch right now is the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Partially because of the Swan Song, because of Dion, because of the flair of USC and UCLA leaving, along with Oregon and Washington. But at the end of the day, man, there's still a lot of football to be played. So, although Oklahoma State's opportunities to be doing a lot later in the season, it doesn't mean that it's dead for the Big 12. And we're at a position right now where, yes, we should be having a conversation where Oklahoma State has the ability to be at the top of the Big 12. But if we're not going to be at the top and we do get in a position where we kind of have to rebuild a little bit, at least we want some Big 12 teams to be successful to help us out financially. So,
Very, very, very true. Very true. I'm going to see if I can. I think I got my computer up now. So I'm going to see what I need to do to get into that without screwing this up too bad, Cody.
no problem,
See
brother.
here. Okay, that's why. Now I got to tape myself out there. Ah! How about that? Did it work? No. That is awful. Ugh. Hold on.
Sounded like you had the 4-alarm fire. The same one that Gundy's currently dealing with. It appears as though you might have caught the same little bug there. But anywho, man, yeah, I definitely hope that the Big 12 can still do enough to kind of turn the ship in a positive direction. Still a lot of time, still a lot of capability, still a lot of ability. OU unfortunately looks pretty good. Texas, they're not back, right? Alabama hasn't had this quarterback situation since 2015 with Coker. It's going to take them some time to maybe get it figured out. KU looks maybe good, maybe susceptible. UCF, BYU's got a couple big wins. Cincinnati offensively can compete and play with anybody, absolutely anybody. Defensively, right? It's a different story. Iowa State. That's what we're going to find out what that massive pillow fight looks like this weekend. But, we need to get over the 6.5 mark for anybody to make some money. And it's still possible. We've got 2 W's. The Big 12 has some big wins. They have some terrible losses too, of course. But, yeah, man, from a Big 12 perspective, there's still time. There's still some meat on the bone for us.
I sure hope so. Can you hear me, Cody?
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, good. Now I need to figure out how to get my ugly face on the camera here, but let's see here. And I'll add. Yeah, for some reason it's not putting my picture up here, but
it's all good, brother. Sometimes you got to do the trial by fire stuff. I 100% get it, buddy. I'm not the most technologically advanced individual in the world, so it's been like, poking a baby bear for me to figure this stuff out as I have gone. But I don't feel like I'm quite the Bambi with the legs spread as wide anymore. So
hear you. Okay, so it says it's put my picture up, but it is not. And so,
are you using a laptop camera or like
right now? I'm just using a laptop. I don't have any because I was setting everything up, and then this whole thing started up where it's loading software and all that good stuff.
Oh, so, dude, we don't have to. We can.
Well, as long as you can hear me, that's good. That's the only problem. Okay. Okay. I had a couple things I wanted to ask you specifically, my man. Okay.
Yeah, fire away.
First of all, let people know again when and where they can see you and your show every day.
No problem. It's obviously on YouTube. We're available on every single podcasting platform as well. The show is Locked On Oklahoma State. It is daily. Typically, we're going to be doing some live stuff post-game. I was doing live stuff on Sundays as well. But we're going to have to potentially do some rearrangement of the live stuff, but we're still going to continue to do it on top of daily. Follow me on Twitter at AllDayOState.
Gotcha. I want to thank our sponsors too. Of course, the show brought to you each time. Obviously, DoorDash and our good friends at Wendy's. They keep me well fed. And of course, our good friend Karen Johnson. She is responsible for putting together Greg's gear. You see it in the upper right there. We will debut that here very shortly. Anything you want. And yeah, even you Oklahoma State fans, Oklahoma, Texas, whoever, she's got the copyright or whatever you got to have. Yeah, we don't need any of that stuff. So it's like she can do all of that. So, if you want to get some special OSU shirts made up for your tailgate group or something like that, Karen can do that. And that's Karen Johnson. You can get hold of her on Twitter at Karen Key Largo. Karen Key Largo. And she's an A&M fan, so she's kind of hurting like the rest of us. Of course, Scott Hammer from Cruise Planners. He is the very official travel agent of Greg Swaim Sports. He'll put it together for you. Helping Hands, Rhea Sunshine, Mark and Cindy Welch, longtime sponsors of ours on the radio show. And Alan Cashman, thecashmanwins.com. He's our guru as far as all that. We'll let you know about those folks. Cougar Tracks, checking in. Says, just checking in, Greg. The numbers will increase. Yeah, it's a brand new show, and it'll get there. And Wes, hope you can hear me better now. We're having some technical issues. It happens. Hey, Cody, let's talk a little bit about the national scene. Who are the 4 teams right now, today, that if I held a gun to your head, you'd have to pick 4 to go to the national college football playoffs?
Right now, I'd say Georgia, Michigan, Washington, and Ohio State.
Okay. Yeah, I've got Michigan. Yeah, I've got them. I've got Georgia. I've got Florida State, and I've got USC. So we got a couple the same, couple not the same, but it's going to be interesting because I think this year is a lot more wide open than last year. There's not just one super dominant team. Georgia is beatable. I still favor them. I definitely still favor them. I mean, they look awfully good still, but they have some issues. There's not a team out there that I've seen yet that doesn't have issues. Everybody's got a super weakness, and with Georgia, I think their bigger problem is depth and the quarterback situation. New quarterback, obviously. So, but they'll be fine. I don't feel too sorry for them. Do you? Given our circumstance at Oklahoma State, I don't feel too bad for those. I don't feel bad for Alabama fans either. They're in some rare air. They don't know where they're at right now. I don't know how good Hey, Cody, help me out here. I don't know how good Texas is after Alabama gets smoked last week.
No,
I mean, they didn't get smoked, but they could have easily gotten beat.
Yeah, brother. I was fortunate enough to make some money on that game originally. So I had picked Texas ever since basically I rewatched the Alabama spring game. Like, you knew back then they had quarterback problems. We've known that Tyler Buchner is not exactly, the greatest quarterback in the world because of what we saw at Notre Dame, especially during the game against Oklahoma State, right? So, and then you factor in Milroe. Yeah, the versatility is great, the athleticism is great, but he's just not quite as polished, man. So Alabama's got a lot of dudes all over the field, but we all know that if you have some major deficiencies in the quarterback room, it's going to bite you no matter what the rest of the talent on the team is. So, yeah, I don't think Texas is back. I do think that their win over Alabama inevitably does, in fact, help the conference because there's going to be some teams that are able to knock Texas off. And because of the win against Bama and because they are, in fact, Texas, it's going to continue to be talked about throughout the entirety of the year. So at the end of the day, it does help the Big 12 possibly.
Cody, when NIL first came up a couple years ago, I was doing radio and we were talking about it every day and getting experts on. And Cougar Tracks, by the way, has Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and USC. So he's kind of in the middle between where you and I are at. But, when NIL came out, I thought, okay, here it is. The rich will get richer, which means the poor get poorer just by, whatever happens. The Ohio States, the Michigans, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Oklahomans, the Texas, they'll all get their players, and they are. And you look at the SEC and you look at recruiting every year out of the high school and junior college ranks, they're number one with a bullet, and they'll have 8 teams in the top 20 or top 15 even loaded up on 4 and 5 stars. But what has happened, I'm starting to see, and I think you are too, and I want to get another opinion on it, is what you think is going to happen, because it appears to me like exactly the opposite's happening. In other words, the Alabamas and the OUs are still getting those 5 stars, but are they staying? Are they maturing there? They're just getting better there. By the time they leave and they're at their peak, they're going maybe to maybe not a blue blood and really helping them out.
Well, I think the irony of this whole transfer portal era is, all in all, with all of the craziness that's happening, I don't think any of it's necessarily great for the game of football. But if there's one thing that all of this has given us, it's a little bit more stability. It's a little bit more parity, because just like you saw with South Alabama, man, South Alabama had 31 Division I Power 5 transfers. Why in the world does South Alabama have the same style of roster as Houston? It shouldn't happen, right? And I kind of pick on Houston here, but it still is going to continue to matriculate, I think, down this way, because the evaluation phases that people take into consideration for high school, they're going to be fewer and far between. Those same recruiting services that have been hired for years to evaluate high school talent, well, those same services now have to do an evaluation of college guys a little bit more. So you're going to have the high school side of things where players get, kind of left out in the fold. The diamonds in the rough are going to be more available. And then on the flip side of that, the transfer class is allowing players to go somewhere to get paid something and then have an opportunity to potentially go make some money and play somewhere. So if they already have money and now they get to go play, yeah, I see what you're saying as far as you're getting the best of both worlds, really.
Yeah, and think about it as a coach. I mean, how your job has changed in the past 3 years. Instead of seeing high school kids, during the season and being out on Friday night, and instead of going out maybe in the spring and try to pick up a few JUCOs to fill the spots you didn't get filled with high school kids, now you're looking at college kids. You're looking at your opponents every week. Hey, that's a potential, because look at all the kids transferring from Power Five schools. A lot of them are staying in their same conference, especially in the
yes.
SEC. That's been going on forever,
Well,
So
and
I'm just real curious on this stuff, because it's changed recruiting totally. And if you're getting 5 stars out of high school like Oklahoma and Texas are getting, but they're not staying, and maybe they redshirt a year, and maybe they play a year, but they're still learning their jobs and things like that. And it's a different level. But then they transfer to maybe, I don't know, a Kansas or something, and they're superstars. They finally reach their potential that they didn't reach their first 2 or 3 years. So it's a different world we're living in for sure.
Well, and unfortunately, as Oklahoma State fans, we're in a position where we're not exactly set up to reap all of the benefits when somebody like a Kansas, like you just mentioned, is, simply because, man, Lance Leipold seems to have it on the right trajectory. KU looks like a fun, hot, dare I say, sexy place to go play the game of football right now, especially from an offensive side of the ball. And the irony is that used to be us, Greg.
Yeah.
Everybody used to talk about Oklahoma State's offensive innovation and what you could do statistically. So if you wanted to be a Biletnikoff Award recipient coming to OSU, you used to get that. And I'm not saying that you still can't, right? Because I know we have some of those guys, but I think this adds a little bit to where we should probably be careful here, and why this is an imperative time for Gundy and coaches like Gundy to capitalize. Because from an Oklahoma State perspective, there are All-Americans like Kendall Daniels, like Colin Oliver, and guys like Ollie Gordon that you can see that, they're going to have the potential to be All-Americans somewhere. You want them to be in Stillwater. And just like whatever roster that you love right now, if there's not enough success and there's not enough buy-in from the players and the coaches simultaneously, you're looking at a scenario where it's hard to fall in love with guys anymore, because you're so worried that if your team doesn't do good enough or your coach fails miserably, that you're going to lose those guys.
Cody, I know when we talked last night about doing the show, at first you had an issue coming up. Do you still you have a show coming up here in a little bit?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay, I'll keep you a few more minutes then, because I did want to ask you about the Big 12. Who are the surprises, both negative and positive, for you right now, just 3 weeks into the season?
Well, I think surprise, honestly, would be, Cincinnati's offense is surprising. You know what? BYU. I think everybody
BYU
knew,
is my surprise.
everybody knew when you have a roster full of grown men, you're going to have the opportunity to be successful, because maturity does matter, right? Having that cerebral cortex developed a little bit, it helps. So I think BYU hasn't put themselves in a position to go backwards yet, like some of us already have, like Oklahoma State, Iowa State. Disappointment-wise, you know what, man? I think I expected a little bit more out of Baylor. I didn't expect them to set the world on fire, but I thought, with how negative last season was, I thought the fan base might get behind Baylor a little bit to help them keep Dave Aranda there. But yeah, they've been pretty underwhelming thus far.
Cody Stovall joins us. A few more minutes. Of course, you can watch him every day on YouTube. And do you stream to other platforms too, Cody?
As far as the podcast side of things, yeah, man, we're on
The podcast.
Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, literally every single one that you can physically possibly think of. And then visually, though, yeah, it's just the YouTube show with Locked On Oklahoma State. Well, I also will be
Yeah.
doing some writing, which I know I've been talking to you about a little bit. I actually have a meeting tomorrow about how I'm going to end up getting published and stuff, and how it works out. So I'm trying to spread my wings and be a peacock and fly as much as you, Greg. I'm trying,
Well,
man.
if you want to fly on gregswain.com with your writing, I'd take anything you write, my friend, anytime.
All right, brother, man.
Anytime.
I was unaware, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
we're
love it.
actually we've done it in the past. We're getting ready to do it. We're going to have a writer for every Big 12 school, and then we'll start adding the other conferences too as we get.
Perfect.
And we've already got Florida State, some people like that. And oh, by the way, before I let you go, there was on another show today, which is in the old days on NBC, they'd say on another network, they would say. Today, another network was talking about the potential of Florida State and North Carolina talking to the Big 12. I'm calling BS on that one. They've talked before, sure,
Right.
for a backup plan, but listen, those schools want to go to where the big money's at. We're one of the top two. I get it. Don't have a problem with it. But if they don't get invited, when the ACC potentially breaks up, we'll be there for them with open arms, right?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. It would be a ridiculous notion to even assume that we wouldn't automatically take them.
Yeah.
I know the Big 12, is still technically in a pretty good position moving forward, especially with the folding of the doors accordion like in the Pac-12. But the ACC, they're not on great ground. But you and I both know that all of this is probably just more posturing on their behalf to get a little bit more leverage and leeway in what they really want. Would they come to the Big 12 if everything worked out perfect for them? Yeah, probably. But is that their desired outcome?
Yeah, it's like we wouldn't have got the four schools we got. I understand that if they didn't fall apart. Well, the ACC is going to fall apart too. So eventually, maybe we can get our picks, and that will help maybe cement the power three. So hey, Cougar Tracks lets us know the average age of a BYU player is 21.7. The extra COVID year up that some. We know because of the LDS missions that a lot of those kids go on. They're older, but I've never had a real problem with that. I know, like some people do, and the reason is, what do you think those guys are doing those 2 years? Man, they're not lifting weights and playing football and getting better. So that hurts them a little bit. Same with their basketball players, baseball, whatever. And not all their kids are Mormon and go on those missions either. So Awesome Shark asks us, what's up with Oregon State, Washington State to the Big 12? There is some talk about the TV folks, being, of course, ESPN and Fox, might give them half for a couple of years. And I don't think particularly the Fox people want to lose anybody in the West Coast. And there's only two P5s left, and they don't want those guys to go G5 because I think both those schools have pretty awesome fan bases, Cody.
Yeah, not. And honestly, man, the product on the field, they would look good in the Big 12 right now, right?
This year they would be competitors. Yeah.
What a difference a year makes.
Oh,
Not even a year. I would say even 6 months ago, it wasn't a thought, wasn't an idea, wasn't even a realistic concept. And now they're both performing so well. It's like, well, only 1 or 2 years doesn't, make a mountain. But I don't know. In this landscape, you kind of take all that you can get, right? If it's security and solidification.
It's just been kind of nuts. This first 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks has kind of been a bizarro world. I mean,
absolutely
weird things are happening. The elite are not quite as elite as they've been, and the bottom feeders are kind of coming up. And I mean, I think Oregon State and Washington State could be called bottom feeders in some way, just based on where they traditionally finish in their conference and overall. But I like them. I mean, Oklahoma is Oklahoma State. Oregon State, Washington State. They've got ag schools. They don't have their noses up in the air like a lot of those folks in that conference did, particularly the two in the San Francisco area. Cody, once again, let everybody know where they can watch you, and we'll let you go and get ready to do your other stuff.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate it, Greg. Locked On Oklahoma State, you can pretty much catch me daily. We'll go live on either Saturday or Sunday, whether it be post game or just kind of an analysis, a wrap up on a Sunday. Follow me on Twitter at AllDayOState. I like to chop it up and have some fun occasionally on there. And yeah, Greg, I greatly, greatly appreciate the opportunity and the time. You and I both know, man, your reach in the industry is pretty remarkable, and
not quite on YouTube yet, though.
Well, you know what, man? It's not going to take very much time, because here's one thing that I have learned. I'm nowhere near, an expert or good enough quite yet myself, but everybody can have a YouTube channel. That is true, but not everybody can coordinate it to where it makes it fun, insightful, and at least somewhat entertaining enough. And I feel like we do a pretty good job of that. So thank you, buddy.
Well, you do such a great job. And I've just been kicking around this summer watching you and Big 12 Mafia and all those guys and getting kind of caught up and picking up tips from other people and things like that. Cougar Track says, thanks, Cody. So as well as I do, and I'm sure everybody else does as well. And hey, take care of those kiddos, and we'll get you on soon again, hopefully.
Yes, I actually, my daughter's got a skate town, skate party, the neon lights, whatever. You know what? Daddy-daughter dates, they work. The pizza, it looks big. It's not, and it's not very good, but it's about the date. That's what matters.
Yeah, it's kind of like Chuck E. Cheese. The pizza's not good, but the kids have fun, right? So,
actually, Chuck E. Cheese is different, because if you accidentally, I don't know, take in a little pocket shot of Jack Daniels, the pizza's not too bad.
I'll have to keep that in mind, although my kids are now too old to go to Chuck E. Cheese, but the grandkids are not. So I'll have an excuse to use my Jack Daniels there, right?
Even better, buddy. Even better.
Cody, good talk to you, my friend. You have a great evening.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Right. God bless. Go Pokes, man.
You too, buddy. And Cody, one of our favorite people, no doubt. And I don't know why my screen is doing this, but it is. And for some reason, I could get out and back in, but heck, I'm doing you a favor by not having to see my ugly face, right? So I want to thank certainly Cougar Tracks, Awesome Shark, and Wes for chiming in, and of course, our good friend Cody Stovall, and our great sponsors, of course, always DoorDash and Wendy's, keeping me kind of chubby. Karen Johnson, of course, you can get hold of Karen for any of your needs in gear, uniforms, any sport, any of that stuff. Get hold of Karen Johnson at Karen Key Largo on YouTube, and of course, Scott Hammer, Cruise Planners. And we're setting up that Big 12 cruise for next August. Let us know if you want to go on that. You don't have to commit, but just kind of let me know, hey, I'm interested. And you can email me at swameshow@gmail.com. Alan Cashman, hey, if you guys want to win some money this weekend, go to thecashmanwins.com for $52. Just $52. You'll win that in your first bet. He will take care of you all year long on college games and the NFL. And we appreciate all those great sponsors. We're not having anybody pay. You don't have to pay to chat or anything like that. Maybe eventually, but right now, hey, we're taking care of with our sponsors. We appreciate that. That's going to do it, folks. Have a great, great evening.